Hello everyone and welcome back to another Figurehead Reviews video, and today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends Velocity Suit Spider-Man from the Demogoblin Build-A-Figure wave. Here we can see Spider-Man in his Gamerverse box with all of his accessories and Build-A-Figure piece there in the front window, and then down at the bottom we see the Spider-Man logo. On the side, we have some artwork there that looks like it could be a screenshot straight from the video game of Spider-Man with some of his webbing just kind of coming at us. On the back, instead of the artwork there, we do get a product shot of Spider-Man with his whipping hand pointed up at the sky. And then we do have a read-up. Peter Parker enhances his spider suit with speed-boosting technology to become Velocity Suit Spider-Man. And then we have all the other figures needed in this wave to complete the Demogoblin Build-A-Figure. At the very bottom, you have the UPC code, so you can check with your local retailer to see if they have this in stock. But enough about that. Let's get this open and take a look at Velocity Suit Spider-Man. And here is the Velocity Suit Spider-Man outside of his packaging, and in my previous review of the Mark III Spider Armor, it was mentioned in the comments that that armor was actually something that started off in the comic books. So I do appreciate that call out. I always like finding out things that I didn't know, so very cool there. Now, I did a little research beforehand on this particular suit, though, and discovered that it was designed for the video game. So if any one of these two suits really deserves the Gamerverse moniker, it's definitely going to be this one here. Very cool looking design. I, again, don't own the game, so unfortunately, I haven't seen this suit in action, and this time I actually didn't look up any gameplay footage. Maybe I will here before the closer looks. But still a very cool looking design altogether, though, but I do have my complaints, which we will certainly look at here when we get up close and take a better look at the figure. And much like the Mark III Spider Armor Spider-Man, we are only getting one effect with this figure, and it's going to be another webbing effect that this time is going to fit around the shoulders of a bad guy, which is very cool looking. I love these spider effects, making it look like Spider-Man is webbing people up, and I really hope that these are actually something that we see more of in future releases. Now, in standing straight up, Spider-Man is coming in at 6 1/8 inches tall, which makes him 15.1 centimeters, so he's actually the same height as his Mark III Spider Armor counterpart. But since he only comes with that one web effect and no other accessories besides the Build-A-Figure piece, which we'll look at a later date, let's go ahead and just jump in here and get a look at the sculpt and paint on the Velocity Suit Spider-Man. And getting up close here on the head sculpt, pretty basic looking, and in fact, I would say it looks like it's very Iron Man-esque, mostly when you look at that chin there, that little mouth line that you see, and just some of the other panel lines. I did end up looking up some video game footage, and for the most part, it looks like this suit is pretty accurate, with one exception. It looks like the blue here should have been maybe a little bit darker. The footage that I found from the game, it just seemed like it was really dark, and in fact, almost hard to tell that it was a blue color. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. I also saw in the video game that all of these parts are meant to be glowing, which I kind of expected. Usually, Hasbro just has a certain way of painting things that look like they're supposed to be glowing. So this actually worked. As someone who was completely unfamiliar with the suit, just by looking at it, I got the impression that those lines were meant to be a glowing piece. But the armor itself is pretty cool looking. A lot of dramatic lines and things like that going everywhere. You know, we get the spider logo stretching all the way down. It does continue on a bit into the sculpt there, which is nice, but you do have a little bit of a gap if you use that ab crunch. And for the most part, though, I mean, the blues and everything look good. Like I said, it just looks like they maybe needed to be just a shade darker. We do get a thwipping hand on the one side, which came out looking good, and then a fisted hand on the other. Would have liked maybe some other accessories, but these are the exact same hands that we got with the Mark III Spider Armor. Going down the legs real quick, one thing I do want to show you is this leg, the foot seems to be pointed away, and it's not, oh, here we go, that's why. So we can see the thighs are lined up. Now you can see how much more it's pointed away. So before it didn't look like it was as bad, and actually it still, you can see, just doesn't look quite right, and you can see how far I have to move it. So I don't know if that's a problem with the molding. I don't know if the leg itself is like twisted, but I mean the foot doesn't look like it's messed up, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. But like I said, the figure itself is pretty cool looking. Not really a whole lot going on in the paint area in terms of bad paint. I mean, it all came out looking pretty good. A little bubbly there, maybe. Yeah, some little pockets here and there of paint not making it in, but I did see in the in the video game, there should have been a little bit more paint here at the chest. That is one area that I noticed. I didn't go all the way down. I couldn't find a lot of good artwork. And I did want to mention this too. You have a pretty significant gap there in the hips. Like, you can see those joints pretty plainly. So, and then the only other thing I would mention is, I don't know how the body proportions feel. I don't know if the legs look like they're too short. I don't know. Maybe they're okay, I guess. First impression, I thought something looked off. Now, looking at the articulation, this is where, much like the Mark III spider armor, my biggest complaint lies. So the head goes all the way around, looks down pretty far, and looks up pretty far. Shoulders come up about full 90 degrees. Of course, you do have full rotation. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. Then you do get the standard rotation and hinge on both of the hands. The ab crunch is terrible. Barely goes down. That is not much at all. And then going backwards, I already mentioned that gap. It goes a little bit further back, but to go down, yeah, that is, so basically it goes down enough to cover the bottom of the logo. That's it. So that is a bit of a disappointment. You do have a waist rotation, and then my next complaint, so the legs can come apart pretty far, but when you try to kick forward, you feel like you're forcing it, and that is another disappointment being a Spider-Man figure. Upper thigh cut, double jointed knees, and then you do have a hinge and ankle pivot. But much like the Mark III spider armor, this just doesn't feel like a Spider-Man figure to get a lot of great Spidey poses, especially looking at that video game footage. Even to try to get his legs up and do the classic feet together, like, you can't get enough of an ab crunch. So to try to get him into a cool, like, thwipping pose, I don't know, I could probably try to do a little bit better of a job, but that's as far up as his legs are going. So, again, if I wanted to try to do, like, a kicking through, yeah, it doesn't really work. So that is a bit of a disappointment. And that is going to do it for this review, everyone. So overall, taking a look at me trying to do this pose here of just sort of a pretty typical Spider-Man pose, and you can see it just feels kind of awkward. So that's really my biggest complaint with both of these Spider-Man figures, that the posability is just not the best. It's not the most Spider-Man-like, I should say. With agile characters, not being able to get them in a lot of great poses, legs up and stuff, is a bit disappointing. So this looks like he's falling backwards, about to catch himself, and that's about as high as I could get the legs. So overall, not a terrible figure, and it seems like it captures the design pretty well. I just wish we had a bit more in the articulation department. For anyone who is strictly a comic book collector, you can pass on this one if you want to. It was in a comic, but it was a comic in support of, or rather a tie-in to, the video game. So you don't have to get this one if you're just a strictly comic collector. Now, if you're a Spider-Verse collector, though, then I could see people wanting to get it. But otherwise, wait for a sale. I would say, he's not going to be that hard to find, in my opinion. But anyway, that is it for the review, guys. Make sure to hit that thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe for more content just like this. And as always, thanks for watching my videos, and have a great day.